Welcome to the Life Chat Podcast, seeking the truth with Derek Powell, navigating you through. Every Wednesday night, new topics ignite. Join the journey, let's take flight. Bringing insights that change our view. Derek's voice, clear and true. Tune in each week, discover new light. Life Chat Podcast, reach a new height.
Once again, welcome to Life Chat Podcast. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be a part of the conversation and being a part of what Life Chat Podcast is all about. And what Life Chat Podcast is all about is my mission statement, which is real people discuss real topics, real experiences, but we offer real solutions. So tonight, our plan, our goal, our hopes is that somebody will get something out of this conversation, something out of this topic, something out of this episode. I always try to lead in with something about my day, something about what inspired me to do what I was doing and to keep myself moving forward. And today was one of those days where I finally got the chance to just go out and venture out and do the things I've been wanting to do in my new wheels, in my new car. Was new to me, but I'm loving it. And today I got a chance just to go to a couple different fishing spots and relax and enjoy myself. And to me, that was my therapy. And I also got a chance to see a couple of people that I haven't seen in a long time. And it was all love. Everybody's good. Life is good. And I plan to just keep it that way and take it slow, steady, and keep the pace moving. And speaking of keeping the pace moving, I'm going to bring on my guest. And my guest tonight with the topic of healing and transformation is Miss Natascha Hughes, aka Coach Taj. So here we go. Coach Taj, you should be on screen. Got a little lag here. Got a little lag, y'all. So sorry. I had a little lag, Coach Taj.
That's all right.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I had a little lag. But we discussed that earlier. And that's why everybody to recognize that the issues, this is not a huge syndication. It's just me as a one-man band back here doing what I do. So sometimes it's going to be little technical issues, but we're doing what we got to do. And here we are. We're healing and transformation featuring Miss Coach Taj, Miss Natascha Hughes. So give us a little bit about who you are, Miss Taj. What makes you the authority? What gives you the authority to speak on this topic, healing and transformation, for tonight?
Good evening, everyone. Derek, my guy, I'm just going to say this to you from the beginning. Don't despise small beginnings because
Absolutely.
It's already in there. So I am Natascha, Coach Taj, as D calls me. What makes me the SME, the subject matter expert? I wouldn't know about that. Life, right, on healing and transformation, because I pour from a place that I used to reside. So, I am, who am I? I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am still in transition. I am transforming. I'm a pattern interrupter. I'm a mobile hardware store, and I say that because I like to give people tools that they can use to transform. Um, and
A mobile
and
hardware store. I
I'm
never
sorry,
heard that.
what's that?
A mobile hardware store. You
Yeah,
said a mobile hardware store. I never heard anybody put it that way. But what do you mean when you say a mobile hardware store? What does that mean?
because I am constantly on the move, and I'm bringing tools to people to help them transform
Okay.
where where
Okay.
where wherever it's needed, and sometimes globally as well. I'm a pattern interrupter. I
And
am, yeah, I'm a giant slayer. um, and um, I am a change maker. I bring tools.
all right.
I bring that passion.
All right. And with everything that you just mentioned, there are some
Mhm.
of us that need this information that you're about to give us. And some of us that are actually listening in and wanting to change and heal and transform. So with the healing and transformation topic being what it is, I know me
Mhm.
personally. A lot of times I share about my struggle,
Mhm.
and I'm just going to leave it, just talk about that part, but you can discuss what you want to, whatever you want to discuss. But I want to talk about this part now in my life, as far as healing
Mhm.
from the trauma and healing from substance abuse. you
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
um and part of my healing was included that I had to go to rehab to heal from my substance abuse, which was the symptom of my past traumas and drug addiction to substances.
Mhm.
That's what I get out of this topic, healing and transformation. And the healing part was my recovery. Transformation is the things that I'm doing now to keep that going. What does this topic mean to you?
It means progression, right? It means the process. And those that are listening and know me very well know it's something about that word, um, the process. It's a process because it's ongoing, and we work on it every day. I'm sure you can, you know, co-sign that. It's a everyday work that we do, um, and so healing is. I always say healing is more than a hashtag. Why do I say that? Because you have to do the work. Have to do the work, and sometimes that work can be very uncomfortable, scary, intimidating. We could go on and on with adjectives, but you have to do the work at your pace. But nonetheless, it has to be done. It doesn't just happen. I'm sure you can attest to that.
And with you know, and the healing is just getting the part about getting to know who you are. Well, me knowing
Mhm.
who I am, and you mentioned about being scary about the issue or the situation being scary,
Mhm.
and for me, that's the part, the getting to know who I really am and knowing how I really feel about myself and outside, influence, outside, people and things, and just getting to know what really makes me tick, how I really feel about myself, how things affect me, and how. But the ultimate part for me is how I affect other people in my life, and people that come across, people
Sure.
that I meet. Being I'm still working on my. Sometimes I know sometimes my mouth can get a little, I can say things, and I really
What?
don't want to. Sure, I can. I know it's a surprise, but I don't want to hurt people, but I still have this thing inside of me where I feel like I have to protect myself and keep my wall halfway up sometimes, and
Sure.
that comes with the transformation part. So what about transformation that is that makes you the authority on transformation?
So I wouldn't say I'm the authority. I can say that I'm a living, walking example.
You're the authority for the night on this episode.
Okay, I'll take that. It's because I did my work, D. I did my work. I'm still doing my work. It's ongoing. And I learned the difference between change and transformation because there is a difference. And I had to um, learn that because transformation is an inside job. And so it's more weighty for me, right? But it's transformation that rewrites who you are.
Can you say that
And
again,
so
please?
mhm, change rearranges your life. In other words, the physical things, right? On the outside. But it's transformation that rewrites who you are. That's an inside job.
Okay. All right.
In other words, change is modification of circumstances, habits, changing environments, right? We change people, places, and things. That's a whole nother conversation. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
external. But when we're talking about transformation, we're talking about having, you know, how I say shift happens, having that fundamental shift, beliefs and perspective. That's the internal, that's the inside job. And so change can be temporary, right? But it's transformation, I believe, is irreversible. In other words, you're never the same again. For example, if you think about a rubber band, right? You take it out the pack and you stretch it, right? Does it ever go back to its original state?
Of course not. But not of course
But it
not. But
looks
no.
like, yeah, but it looks like it, right? It goes real back to it, but it would never go back exactly to where it started. Okay. And so that's why you hear me use the term sometimes stretch moments, because in stretch moments, we can never go back to where we were, because now we have a revelation, an understanding about what's going on, a revelation at a level that I can understand. But watch this, now I'm accountable for it. So there is no more, I didn't know that. I
Didn't
didn't
know
know.
yet.
Right? Which is where we get stuck sometimes. Right? So for example, my home has been in as a part of my transformation journey, has been in a construction, right? Different phases. We just finished phase 2 this summer. So one of the things is I'm redecorating my home, right? My living room, the outside spaces. And so that's change for me. Okay. But watch this. Transformation is when I decided on the inside that I can no longer live in the clutter and the chaos that my depression produced. You follow me?
I understand, but I want you to break down those two. What you just mentioned, where the clutter, how to clutter, whatever clutter is to you, because it's going to be different for you as it is for other people.
Sure.
But how did that?
So, yeah, and that analogy, I used to say to my children sometimes, I said, I wonder if I'm almost a hoarder, right? Because I love yard sales, I love thrift stores, right?
Oh, you
And
talking to
so,
somebody? You talking to
huh?
somebody? You talking to somebody? Trust me. You
Yeah,
talking to somebody now?
I'm just transparent. Listen, that's one of my assignments, is to be transparent, right? And I've had to come to grips with that too, but that's a whole nother conversation. And so in that, I decided that I was going to take on this minimalist lifestyle, right? And so the change came from adding trim, adding fresh paint, shifting some cabinets around, adding flooring, adding all these things. But the transformation, the inside part, came when I made a choice to no longer be the same person that was okay tolerating clutter and chaos. Clutter, for me in this example, is stuff all around. Okay.
Shoes,
Now,
shoes.
mhm, shoes, stuff, books. I love books, piles and piles of books, clothes, all those things. Clutter for somebody else might be the clutter up here,
Up here.
right? Because I often say this, the fight's not out here, the fight's in here. Okay. And so, it is the process. Change and transformation is the process. And like I said, anybody that knows me knows, man, the process, because the process is difficult. And that's what we don't want to go into. We don't want the process. We want the results, but we don't want to endure the process. So, talking about change tonight, we're not just talking about change. We're not just talking about transformation. We're not just talking about healing. And just let me say this about healing, because I don't necessarily endorse the term broken, right?
Just-
When it comes to trauma, because that's a buzzword too. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
But I want to know what is why is broken not a part of your vocabulary? Why do you not like using the term broken? I'm asking because other people, that might be watching and use that term, or people that'll watch later and they hear
Yeah,
this.
sure. And it's a term that people identify with, right? And I'm not knocking it, right? I'm just talking about me personally. Because my faith is who I am, right? I'm sure enough a Jesus girl, right? And I believe in that word. And that word tells me to call things that are not as though they were. Okay. So I'm not going to say, I'm broken. I may have been broken in a certain area, but I choose to endorse the word capacity because I believe, right, that the potential, a wise man once taught me that we all have potential. Sometimes it's just untapped, right? So perhaps I didn't have the capacity to deal with those things at that time. You follow me?
Understand?
And so as my potential developed, then I began um, to gain capacity, which is healing, right? Coming from a tumultuous childhood, um, physical, emotional, abuse and those type of things. Some people may say, broken, right? And I did, right? I endorsed it at one time, but as I began to grow and do my work, right, with the help of therapists and mentors and people that poured into my life, I began to see and I began to endorse, right, what that wise man once told me, that I had potential that I couldn't see. It was just untapped.
How
Um, Go ahead.
I want to know how what is, not to get too deep into like your personal stuff, but
Hmm.
how long has that process? What was the process? How long was your process? Everybody's process is going to be different.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
how did you advance? How did you move your process quickly, or was it a quick process for you?
Absolutely not, because I'm still in the process. I'm
Thank you.
still in. I'm still in the process is ongoing. There's different levels to this thing, D. It's different
Thank you.
levels, and so the process is ongoing. Um, I can say now this is probably 20 plus years, in the process through therapy, through getting rooted and grounded in my faith, through not only hearing but learning and applying the word, right? The word for me is my Bible and living by that. Okay. I it's still ongoing, right? As a matter of fact, I feel spiritually that I'm getting ready to shift to another level, right?
Okay.
And that gets me worked up too as well.
Yeah.
And fear tries to set in, right? And I have to do a lot of self-talk and things like that. So when you say, the authority and things like that, I think sometimes we get that twisted because authority figures, in my field of work, I am considered a SME, which is a subject matter expert. However, I'm still human, right? I
Hmm.
put my pants on one leg at a time, just like, everybody else. And I'm still growing. And, you know, the most powerful thing in this 20 plus year journey, D, was learning how to shift my mindset. That's where I get that the fight's not out here. The fight's in here. Because I often say, and I truly believe, there's nothing more powerful than a changed mind.
Hmm.
Think about it. Think about when you you made the choice, right? Because that
Oh yes,
same wise man
absolutely,
also taught me that life is choice driven. So at one
absolutely.
point, you made a choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it wasn't just that one. It wasn't just that. I made the choice and then everything was perfectly fine. No,
right.
I had to make that choice and then I had to go back out, experience some more, and remake the choice again. You
Absolutely.
know, um, that's what it was for me. Some people can do it differently, no matter what the situation is, whether it's a substance, whether it's marital issue, whether it's whatever it is, hoarding, whatever.
Yeah,
Sometimes we have to go back and reassess and actually have to experience things again and go, make another decision.
absolutely.
You know, that's what it was for me.
Yeah. But watch
And
this. The process is a series of choices, right? You made that one initial choice, but we continually, day after day after day, make choices,
mhm,
right? So the process consists of a series of choices. And I don't think I know, that's one of the most powerful things that wise man taught me was life is choice driven. right? We literally live or die by the choices that we make. As a matter of fact, where we sit today, where you sit, where I sit in this space, is a result of what? Choices
Yeah.
that we made.
Yeah.
So choose wisely.
So that almost sounds like a commercial. So choose wisely. But
Choose wisely.
I'm glad you mentioned all this, and I'm glad you're elaborating on different situations and not just talking about it. You're actually elaborating on it. And one I want to also ask or add, in reading your bio, you sent me your bio, and you mentioned about different roles that you play, that you have, and how do you combine? How do you work with all these different roles that you have in life, and from your professional life, and just in general? How do you combine all these things, these different hats that you wear in your professional life, with the topic, with healing and transformation? How does that all work? How does that all coincide?
Sure. So it coincides because the work that I do globally, it bridges real life experiences, right? My experiences, your experience, the person's experience, and I combine it with proven strategies that I've known and have been tested by time to guide people from where they are to where they're called to be. So I do that in the personal development space. I do that in the therapy space. I do that in the corporate world, in organizations, right? I do that in churches. Um, and it just goes kind of on and on. So it all kind of comes down to me serving, right?
Uh,
How I can serve others, right? I've just been blessed with the gifts and the talents that I use for the kingdom. And I've just been blessed. The word says that your gifts will make room for you. The Bible says that your gifts will make room for you and bring you before great men. And I have walked that out. I don't, some days I don't know how I wind up in the places and the rooms that I have been, but that's how I kind of all bridge that together. Because I don't care what room I'm in, right? I want to help people get better. I want to see them to be the best version of themselves.
and I asked those questions. I asked that question because a lot of people may not know what you do or who you actually are. And I asked that question because sometimes people say, well, like I mentioned to you earlier, some people say, well, what gives this person the authority to speak on this and speak on that? And I wanted to let people know that you actually are walking in everything that you mentioned, and your background. You have a lot of letters behind your name. Sometimes people say, oh, that stuff don't matter, this and that, but you have a lot of letters behind your name, and I wanted to know if you would elaborate on what they mean.
Sure. So I have I have a series of processes, right, that I've gone through, and right now, in this capacity, I am a licensed social worker, master's level social worker. I am an internationally certified and licensed chemical dependency counselor, drug and alcohol counselor. I am certified and licensed in crisis stabilization and intervention. And right now, I'm retired from the corporate world of operations, behavioral health operations. And right now, I'm on faculty at Delaware Tech here in Delaware to share knowledge, right? 'Cause that's my passion, to give back. That's my purpose in life, to guide in. In other words, when I leave here, I want to give back and pour out all those things that have been poured into me, and my gifts and my talents into other people.
Hmm. That's that, and I'm sure you can go on for days discussing some of the roles and some of the things that you've been involved in,
Yeah,
and with helping other people with their process of healing and
sure,
transformation. And you
sure.
mentioned the change. That's what I want you to elaborate a little bit more about the change and transformation part, because you mentioned I didn't put that together initially, but I guess I wasn't supposed to. It wasn't meant for me to. Change and transformation. You mentioned there's a difference, and you went to the internal and the external part about that, and that's I was focused. I was stuck on that because my life now, it's not just about me, but the life that I live now. That change part and the transformation part, and I'm thinking about the differences. What was the difference for me? And just hearing that, kind of, I'll probably be thinking about this for the rest of the night. Where
Good.
where was my change, and where was the difference for me?
Yeah.
That's what I'll be thinking on tonight, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I know it's going to be I know you're going to say some thought provoking things to have people think, but back to the healing. Healing is not, a lot of times as soon as we hear the word healing, we're thinking about pain, we're thinking about struggles, we're thinking about trauma. Actually, you threw the topic out there when I asked you to be on, and why I want to know why is this topic, why is healing and transformation so big for you as a topic?
Sure, because it's so powerful. And I know people struggle with that, because I struggle. Remember, I said I was her. Okay. And it is hard. But I also know that when I made that decision to cross over, for lack of a better words, it's so much better over here. Right. And so I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, if I can just help them, if I can help them get it. Right. Because sometimes all it takes is a little taste. Right. And so I'm very passionate, because I know how it feels. I know how it feels to be hurt. I know how it feels to be abandoned. I know how it feels to be lonely. Right. I know how it feels to have your heart broken in a million pieces. I know how it feels to be betrayed. I know how it feels to have low self-esteem, right? Doing things, for attention and insecurities, right? And I still struggle with some now, but I know that. But when I made that decision to walk through that door, it's so much better on this side. There's still work.
And
What, D? What? What?
I was just thinking to myself, no, not you, but
Yeah.
but yeah, sometimes sometimes, from on the outside looking in, we'll look at people and think, everything is good. They got it. It's all peaches and cream over there. And the whole time there's a lot of stuff going on that, of course we can't see. And the person is just like falling apart, crumbling on the inside.
Yeah.
Trying to keep everything, trying to keep the appearance up. And that's harder. That's a lot of work.
Absolutely.
Just struggling to keep the appearance up that all is well. And my first response, hey there, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. Knowing that I'm not good. And that's where that's where the healing has to start taking place, man. Because if we just saying I'm good and knowing I'm falling apart on the inside, I'm not lying to you. Well, I don't even want to say lying, but I'm not, I'm not exaggerating anything. I'm just, it's just, I'm telling myself that to keep myself afloat. But I actually need, I'm just going to use this word, and it's probably going to be in quotation. It's going to be in quotations. I need a hug. I don't mean a physical hug. I mean, I just need somebody I just need somebody to vent to. I need somebody to listen to me. I need, somebody that's walking the path that I want to walk on, to give me some to give me some insight. And we haven't even talked about. I don't want to step on anybody's toes with their religious preference or spiritual beliefs, but we haven't even touched anything about the outside entity, outside forces. If you know what I mean, God and whatever, however people want to see it. I know what I believe is God to be, but we haven't even touched that yet. We're still talking about just dealing with personal, stuff on the inside of us. So even with that being said, how much of the spirituality part, I know what it is for me. I always try to throw that little disclaimer in for me. But for you, how much of the spirituality I want to say spirituality, not religion, but how much of that plays a part in your healing and transformation process?
Absolutely. So for me, as you open that door, it's where I'm anchored. Like I do believe that I wouldn't be here if I had not found and people hadn't loved me through that, taught me and introduced me, right, to the faith, to the Bible, right, teaching me those principles. That's how I got over, and I'm not ashamed about it, right? And I realized that faith is not um, everybody's thing, right? When I have clients, and they believe in the 12 steps, and here's the thing. I have all kinds worked with all kinds of clients from background. Muslim, religion, I love it. And what did I do? I went and studied it because to me, I wanted to get to the person. I had an assignment with the person. So if that meant that I had to learn more about that person's religion so I can serve them, that's what I did. But for me, it's my anchor. My soul is anchored. And it helped to shift up here. And I think we don't realize. I mean, we talk about it, but I don't know if sometimes we don't realize like how much work it is up here than the physical, right? So, for example, my clients say, Director Natascha, we got to change, people, places, and things, and da 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 da, right? Which is what the rooms teach us. And I say, yeah, right, okay. But perhaps I said, what if I told you that you can change people, places, and things, but if you don't change up here, all right, you're still going to have that battle, right? Wherever you go, there you are. So if you leave right now and go and transplant and move to Rancho Cucamonga, California, right, which is a real place.
Yeah.
And if you haven't shifted, this is why I say shift happens. If you haven't shifted up here, D, the same processes, the same thought processes, patterns, you're going to take the Rancho Cucamonga. And it's only going to be a matter of time before you start looking for those people that do what you do, right? I'm just talking real, right?
I know for a fact.
And even though that's talking about addiction, right? Perhaps someone is not does not struggle in that area. But what if I asked you, what area do you want to change in? Right? And you might say, oh, Coach Taj, I want to go from, being, I want to be like an eagle. I want to fly like an eagle. Okay. And you know what I'm coming back with? I'm saying, okay, well, who you hanging out with?
Yeah.
Who's in your circle? Because there's power in partnership. And so you want to fly like an eagle, okay, but you're hanging out with turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when you realize that turkeys don't have the same capacity to fly at the same altitude that an eagle does, okay?
Does a turkey even fly? A turkey don't even fly, though.
It doesn't fly, right? It flaps a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so, you say, I don't understand. I'm trying to do this, and I keep telling people and this and that and the other. And I'm like, check your surroundings, right? Because, you can't fly like an eagle and hang out with turkeys. Eagles they're built. They were created to be in the air, right? Turkeys were created to be on the ground.
I like the way you broke that down too, because sometimes we always hear that saying about you want to be a millionaire, hang with people with the millionaire mindset, or hang out with millionaire, or learn, that whole thing that people say.
Mhm.
And it makes so much sense. And if I choose not to, if I if I my journey involves drinking, and my life is an open book right now. But
Mhm.
my journey involves
I love it.
drinking, smoking crack,
Mhm.
and prison. That was
Mhm.
my thing. This is what I'm pushing myself further away from. If I continue to go park my car down by the liquor store and talk to people that are still doing what they're doing, and I don't have any backup, I'm eventually I stand a greater chance of hanging out there more often, and I stand a greater chance of using that substance again. And using that substance again is going to take me right back to the same mindset that I had before I got to where I'm at now. And that whole go to the barbershop, get a haircut thing is definitely true. I don't need a haircut at all. But that is definitely true. I mean, if we want to advance mentally, we have to start dealing with people that are doing those things that we see ourselves doing, the things that we want to do. And I appreciate everything that you just mentioned about the turkeys and the eagles, and because it broke it down I guess, a simple level for anybody to understand.
Yeah.
If you want to do better, you know, we have to start dealing with people that are doing the things that we want to do. The places that we want to be, we have to actually work toward it, and it's not just going to come straight. It's not going to just
You
come
gotta
to
do
it.
the work.
It has to be some work.
We have to. And the work is
So,
up here, right? And so I want to share a story with you real quick. I know we're winding down on time, but then I want to leave you with I want to leave our audience with 4 steps, right? To that transformation and change. But I want to share this story with years and years and years ago, right?
whoa,
Um,
that's a lot
as
of
I
years ago.
started, that's a lot of years, right? 4 score and 3 years ago. No, as I started building my faith. Okay, one of the things, in faith, right? I said it earlier, right? It's to call things that are not as though they were, right? And so I said, I'm going to go for this thing, radically, because I believe what the word says, because the word is true. And so I saw this advertisement, right? I still have the stuff to this day, and I actually put one of them in a frame. I look up at it every now and then. It was called the Billionaire Wealth Conference. It was over in California, and I said, I am going to this conference, right? Because I'm one day I'm going to be a millionaire, right? So I'm crazy enough to believe. So I pack up, I go to this conference. I get in this conference. First of all, it was only a handful of African American people in there, right? That's never moved me. But I get in this conference and they are talking, using terms and talking about stuff I didn't know what they were talking about, right? And so when we went on break, I went in the bathroom and I had made up my mind before we went on break. I said, once we go on break, I'm leaving. This is like, I don't know what these are. Da, 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 da. So I go in the bathroom, right? So I was like, I'm going to explore San Diego. No, I'm not. This is not. So I go in the bathroom, right? Come out, and I know guys don't do this, but women stand at they can wash their hands and talk. I know guys don't do that, but right, I'm standing there and I'm washing my hands and I'm drying my hands, and this lady says, how are you? How are you enjoying the conference so far? And I'm like, it's good. I'm making conversation, but all in my mind, I'm getting ready to leave. And she said, are you from California? I said, no, I'm from the East Coast. And I said, yeah, what brings you over here? And I said, well, they have some things that, I'm trying to get my business life together and trying to do some things different. And I'm just, come to glean some things. And she said, oh, you should come sit at our table. Matter of fact, whoever the other lady was, this is, what's your name again? I said, Natascha. This is Natascha. She's going to come sit at our table. So I'm like, I'm getting ready to go leave, right? But let me tell you something. Long story short, that woman became one of my still to this day. Okay. And I learned so much from her over the years and in that conference that had I left, I would have never learned some of the things that I learned, right? Because I was going to get into it. And at that place, I was still struggling with my self-esteem. I was still with my insecurities, not thinking that, I was worthy. And
Good enough.
nobody in my family is being a millionaire. What am I thinking? There's nobody, I've never really seen anybody do it, because at that time I hadn't been exposed to millionaires. But guess what that led to? A career of working in the private aviation sector. Guess what? Working for millionaires and billionaires. Because
So
that seed was planted back then. Now, what if I had left and went home and went to SeaWorld?
why SeaWorld?
Because it's in San Diego. But I'm just saying, but these are the things we laugh at. But like, I don't like, I'm like, whoa, that could have changed the whole trajectory. That conversation and that afternoon changed the whole part of the whole trajectory of my life. Okay. And that's when I began to realize that, again, there's a process to change, the transformation, the healing, or the restoration. It's a process. And what is a process? A series of intentional steps. Okay. That helps me dismantle my old thinking patterns and my old way of living. Okay. And it's intentional. Like you have to be intentional. And so I wanted to, just before, not unless you had another question, I just wanted to share 4.
That's the part that caught my attention when you we're buffering. We're buffering.
Oh, okay.
We're buffering. We're buffering. Our Wi-Fi, our internet connection is being interrupted. But
it's about the storm here.
the part that caught my attention. Yeah, the part that caught my attention before we start wrapping up is when you mentioned about sitting at the table with the people, the lady that you met in the bathroom, and the very first thing that came to my mind was being in the programs and hear people say, "Don't give up before the miracle happens," and you're about to walk out the door before your miracle happens. It's not so much a miracle like we would, but no, but you're about to give up. You're about to walk out the door, and then that's when the lady, you met the lady, and she pretty much put you in position.
Absolutely.
You had to follow through with it, but she basically put you at the table for the information.
Yeah.
So that's what caught my attention. So
she really helped me with my thinking.
Just keep that part fresh in mind. A lot of times, like some of those program terminologies never made sense to me back then. I was talking to somebody else about this the other day. It never made sense to me back in the day when I was in the programs, Key and Crest and Green Tree and all this stuff. But now, and sometimes this stuff goes through my head. I'm like, yeah, that's that, and this is that, and this is that, and he's faking it to make it, and all this stuff. And it makes so much sense, man. And I just want to throw this out there. With your thinking, you mean the whole process of what you're thinking.
You asked me something about mindset, and I keep going there, that it's nothing more powerful than a changed mind, because once your mind changes, I should say, until your mind changes, you'll keep recreating the same thing, just in different situations, right? You talking about our program and stuff. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting what you're getting. And I laughed at that. If my children are on here, right, they grew up with programming stuff, right? I've heard my son say to my grand guy, "That's feedback." That's how serious it is in our household, right?
You gotta be serious. You gotta be serious to tell somebody that's feedback. That's gotta be.
They grew up programming, man. They grew up programming. But until you change, until your mind changes, right? We just keep doing what you're doing, keep getting what you're getting, right? So in other words, right, I can change partners in my relationship, but I'll continue to repeat the same cycle. I can change jobs. I might continue to still have the same frustration because I didn't change it up here. Again, I can move to the new city, and the old me is gonna follow. So I think that's why it's important. But I want to share if I can, um, about the four steps. So when I was behind the fence, I developed what I call, a life change strategy, right? Um, and it's actually, I have it up to be copywritten. And if any of the guys are on, they already know where I'm going with this, right? And it's what I call a plan for change. Okay, and this was birthed behind the fence. And so in that, this strategy that I use is what I use to make big decisions in my life, right? Whether I don't know, purchasing a car, right? I did use it when I purchased my last vehicle, moving careers, um, just to change, right? And it consists of four steps, and it's plan, PLAN. Okay. The first step and is the P, the letter P, and that stands for prepare for the journey. Okay. How do we prepare for the journey? We do our research, we start doing our own work, right? Whether it's therapy, we start making, preparations, right? The one thing that I really, I just told the guys this in my last class that I teach at the prison, because they really want to talk about forgiveness, and that's a whole nother show. Okay. But it's a part of the preparation, right? Because you have to forgive yourself first, right?
Right.
And we can, three things about forgiveness. We can forgive even when we don't feel like it, right? Because we make a choice to forgive. Forgiveness is not emotional, right? It's not about feelings. And forgiveness doesn't mean I necessarily trust again. Okay. The other part of preparation, just for the sake of time, is eliminating those sucker relationships. You know the relationships I'm talking about, the ones that suck you dry. They
I have no
always
clue. I have no
they always
I have no clue.
taking,
I don't know what.
taking, taking, right, and never pouring. Okay, draining your energy, keeping you, from growing. You got to eliminate those sucker relationships, man. Go where people celebrate you, not tolerate you.
Mhm.
Okay, and then again, having the mind shift. The second step is step two is the L, which means launch out into the unknown. When you hear the word launch, what comes into your mind? What vision comes into your mind?
Jet,
A
spaceship,
rocket, right?
space shuttle.
Yeah. So when it comes time to launch out, you have to come out like the rocket, right? The rocket doesn't say, "Well, maybe I'll go off this launching pad." No, it comes out
Uh,
with force, right?
yeah.
And that's how we have to come out. Even though we're launching out into the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, and that's where fear sets in. Okay. And I just believe, I guess we'll never ever truly be ready. You know how people say, I'm gonna wait till this, I'm not ready yet. And I don't know if we're ever been ready, right? And because I'm rooted in my faith, right, I stepped out into waters at flood stage at the risk of drowning, okay, to move. So I'm saying that to somebody tonight. Just move, right? Nike said, just do it.
Do it.
All right. And setbacks are gonna come. That's step number three. Okay, it's the A in PLAN. The A is accept the setbacks because they're gonna come, right? And this is the step, my guy, where people struggle. And if you're not careful on this step, you'll go backwards.
Like when like
Okay,
when Wi-Fi goes out
when
and
Wi-Fi
stuff like
goes
that.
out, that's
Yeah.
why I said think
Yeah.
it not strange. When you keep getting no's, right? No, no, no. When you keep getting barriers thrown up, right? It's keeping me from doing things. Things are not coming fast enough to you, right? But I believe to everything, there's a time and a season. Okay. And so setbacks, we gotta know that setbacks are not the end, right? They're the midpoint with meaning. In other words, that's how I know that I'm on track to go somewhere because they're barriers, right? That are coming up. And I consider it data. It's like having data. Now I'm collecting data about what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, trial and error. So now you know what to
Right.
do. Yeah.
Absolutely. But if you don't know, that's why I said it's up, the fight's up here. Because if you don't know that and you continue to go to the negative part of it, it's gonna truly set you back, right? We're gonna get off course. We're gonna go backwards. We're gonna relapse. We're gonna go back to our old behaviors. Go back to what's comfortable. Okay.
Start
But when
doubting
we,
ourselves.
huh?
Start doubting ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But when we learn to accept the setbacks, D, as a part of the process, we can't forget that word. When we learn to accept the setbacks as a part of the process, we rob them of what their power to overcome us. Okay. So in other words, okay, that's a barrier. Okay, you said no. Okay, that's fine. What did I learn out of this situation? And then the last step, right? And we touched on this a little bit already. In the N stands for network with people who know. In other words,
that's why I reached out to you.
In other words, find a mentor and pattern yourself accordingly. Transformation thrives in community. Okay. I'm building something now called the migration community. And it's about moving from one place to another. And I'm going to build a cohort, because community and transformation, watch this, not in change, in transformation, right? It thrives in community. In other words, I have somebody that's walking the walk with me that I can relate to, that I can talk to, and we can do this thing together. So in other words, get around people who can speak into your future. Okay. That day in that $1 million room, I didn't know that I was going to be sitting among millionaires and billionaires and riding private jets and all kind of, I didn't know that. That didn't come till years later. Why? Because I stuck in the process. Right.
Because you didn't
and
give.
So, huh?
Yeah, you didn't give in. You didn't, because you didn't throw in the towel.
I didn't give in. I almost did. But I believe, God divinely, I believe this, that God divinely placed that woman there, because he knew where he was taking me. And he knew I had a divine appointment with that woman that day. I'm getting goosebumps. He knew that. I didn't know that. Surprise to me, never a surprise to him. But it was my choice whether I accepted and embraced her or whether I kept on with my own plan. Okay. And so networking with people who know, right? There's power in partnerships, because we need someone that is going to help us with those 3 pillars. What are they? Honesty, accountability, and responsibility. Okay. I have accountability partners. I have sisters that will cut me when I need it. Right. And then I still have to make the choice. My one sister would tell me, she said, that's not right. And I said, yeah. She said, but you're going to do it anyway, aren't you? And I said, yeah. She said, okay. We'll see the lesson in it. And she loves me unconditionally, but she holds me accountable, because the choice is still mine. Life is choice driven. Okay. So why am I saying that? Your circle matters. It's power in partnership. Your mentors matter. The people that you have around you matter. The people that you hang out with matter. And watch this, lastly, sometimes that means you will have to be alone. And I heard you say, and that's sometimes sitting with our own self. When you have to sit with your own self, that's uncomfortability. But I'm telling you, D, if you can learn how to master that, well, I don't know if we all truly master it, but if you can learn how to grow in that area,
get better with it.
Unstoppable. Okay. So those are your takeaways. Life is choice driven. Choose wisely. Okay. There's nothing more powerful than a changed mind. Change your mind and move. You like Nike, just do it. Let's jump. All right. And tap into the 3 things that, as I end this, is my prayer for your transformation, healing, change journey, however it applies to you. Here's my prayer: strength, courage, and wisdom.
That's where you came up. That's where you chose the India Irie song on the description. Now I get it. That's
real talk. But what did she say? it's been inside of me. Oh, that was one of the songs that helped me through my journey. I love music. That's a whole nother show. But that's one of the songs. I have a playlist called How I Got Over. And every now and then, real talk, transparency, D, I got to go back and I got to pull it out. And I got to listen to some of those songs, right? And that's one of them. She said, it's been inside of me all along. And that's the hope that I pray that I'm bringing to somebody today. Because like that wise man once told me, we all have potential. It's just left untapped. It's lying dormant.
Okay. Okay. You know me. I'm gonna try to keep my juices flowing up here. But we are coming to the end of our episode for the night.
We gotta end, Dave. We gotta go.
We're coming to the end. You know, as I always say, we all have a life. We have things to do. You know, mine might not be. I'm going to eat some cookies and drink some ginger ale. But we all have a life to live. I just want to say thank you for coming on. And we had some people that were watching the episode, some viewers that are watching the episode, and I thank you for being on. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the people that subscribe and people that left messages and comments. Thank you for being a part of the episode for the night. Thank you, Miss Natascha Taj Hughes, for being on tonight's episode of Healing and Transformation, the Life Chat Podcast. Everybody just be safe. Thank you for the night. Be safe. Be blessed. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.
Stay on the grow.